Last time on
Bleach. The manga starts the way you would expect, with the zombie ghosts of Ichigo's dead family haunting him for letting them be murdered by a monster while he had a girl in his room. The anime cuts this out because it's a coward, but in a twist worthy of a Sixth Sense sequel, it turned out it was a dream anyway. We cut to the less absurd reality of Ichigo's father drop-kicking him in his sleep, and finally move on to episode 2. Luckily for everyone involved, it turns out that the Shinigami Rukia is pretty damn good at healing people, so I'll just add that to her list, I guess. Healer. For good measure, and definitely not just for the convenience of storytelling, Rukia uses a neuralizer on Ichigo's family, and if you don't get that reference, then you're too young for me. Sadly, Rukia decides to go back home and is never seen from again. Here's where the anime does a funny thing and decides that a manga that sold 120 million copies obviously doesn't know what it's doing, and it's best to just fuck with it as much as possible. The show tells the same story, but with some scenes added, altered, removed, or just tossed around as if the showrunner dropped his index cards on the ground before his big speech at a charity fundraiser. So it's about to get pretty hard to review the manga and the anime at the same time, but I guess that's my fault for loving something. Bleach has a bit of an identity crisis and decides to throw in some slice-of-life comedy for good measure. Here we get introduced to some more NPCs, as well as our next playable character, Orihime. She's the first in our severely over-breasted personalities, but she sure as hell won't be our last. She's ditzy in a lot of interesting ways, and honestly way more complex than I ever gave her credit for. The girl is quite a few therapy sessions short of functional, and even the jocks in my intro to psychology course could recognize her constant daydreaming as a mild case of dissociation. But you know, in a cute way. The manga is less subtle about Orihime's romantic interest in Ichigo, and can fuck right off with that bullshit. There's enough genres in this anime already. Both the show and the book take a few opportunities to make fun of Ichigo's constant scowl, and getting to revisit that kinda made this whole YouTube thing worth it. Anyway, Rukia is back. The reveal is handled better in the manga, if anyone cares. Not to mention the manga actually bothers to translate the text on her hand, surprising how much that helps. Long scene short, her spirit is wearing a fake body so people can see her. She can't go back home to Soul Society because Ichigo stole all her power, and now it's his job to kill Hollows in her place. Ichigo proves once again that he's not a typical anime protagonist, and faced with the hero's call to action, disinclines to acquiesce to that request. He doesn't mind protecting his friends and family, but couldn't give less shits about playing the hero. Rukia's response is to reenact that scene from Doctor Strange about 14 years too early. Pushing the boundaries of what I would define as heroic, Rukia forces Ichigo to watch a child be ripped apart by a giant spider so that she can win an argument. Human rights violations aside, her point is that if Ichigo doesn't try to save every ghost, then every ghost's death is on his hands. Ichigo says nuh-uh and agrees to do it anyway, but only as a favor for her since she did sort of, save his life that one time baka. And while we're on the subject of Rukia, can we just... God damn. According to the manga, Ichigo and Rukia have been fighting Hollows together for quite a while now. Rukia has him undergo some off-screen training to get better at striking Hollows in their head, and gives us our stealth as Bae monologue way earlier than the show does. In total, this builds to a more satisfying surprise in the third act when we learn the true nature of Hollows. The anime goes into this whole thing where a guy ghost creeps on Orihime through a window before getting spirit tackled into the underworld and eaten alive. This gives him a cool mask because reasons, and also he's a snake now. Not really seeing the downside if I'm honest. Both versions of the story have Orihime get hit by at least one car before meeting up with the camera to set up with the next conflict, and it's pushing the boundaries of my suspension of disbelief that this girl is allowed to live alone. Rukia notices a hand-shaped bruise on Orihime's leg, but it's fine. No need for a flashback of a dead brother that looks suspiciously like the window creeper guy. Time passes and shit gets real as Ichigo's little sister Yuzu can't find her pajamas. Turns out Rukia is a thief and lives with Ichigo now, have you heard? Not that I'm one to gossip, it's none of my business, but you know that's how you get demons. So anyway, Orihime's brother shows up, the snake guy shows up, never mind, I ruined the surprise. So yeah, Hollows are people, and that's actually surprising in the manga when they don't literally show it to you 5 minutes earlier. If you haven't realized it yet, this episode of Bleach is going to be a two-parter. You'll learn some more fucked up shit in episode 3 and get to see a little more of what Bleach's fights look like. But for now, we're left with a daydream that's 1,000 times better in the manga, followed by some legitimately horrifying music and sound design. In the next episode, our happy slice of life is put on hold, and things are about to get sad. Hey, thanks for coming over, guys. We should do this again sometime.